We're drowning in data everywhere you look. Sports stats, news reports, you name it. But how do you find the real story that's hiding inside all those numbers? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. How to turn all that numerical chaos into stories that are actually clear and make sense.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, then figure out how to handle these huge piles of information without losing our minds. And after that, we'll see how to make the data visual so we can tell a story that's fair and, accurate.
All right, first things first, what exactly is statistics? Because it's so much more than just boring math class stuff. Think of it as a powerful tool for turning a complete mess into something crystal clear.
Come on, we've all been there, right? You're staring at a spreadsheet or a long list of numbers, and you're just completely overwhelmed. You're just wondering, what on earth does any of this even mean?
I mean, just look at this screen. It's a list of 37 different test scores. And right now, it's just a jumble, a wall of numbers. Can you tell me what the typical score was? Or who did well? It's basically impossible. This is what data chaos looks like.
And this is where statistics swoops in to save the day. It's the science of taking a mess, just like those test scores, analyzing it in a smart way, and pulling out a conclusion that's actually clear and meaningful.
So let's start with the most basic, most fundamental tool that every statistician has: finding that one single typical number that can stand in and represent a whole group of data.
Now, you've probably called this the average your whole life. And you're not wrong. In the world of statistics, though, we give it a slightly fancier name, the arithmetic mean, or most of the time, we just call it the mean. It's our first step to making sense of things.
And the best part? The formula for finding it is beautifully simple. As you can see right here, you just add up all the individual scores, and then you divide by how many scores you have. That's it. It gives you that center point, that typical value.
And for a small handful of data, this is super easy. So let's say our friend Nanad read for 5 days. His page counts were 60, 50, 54, 46, and 50. We just add those up, divide by 5, and boom, on a typical day, he read about 52 pages. Simple, right? But what about our 37 test scores? Adding all those up one by one would be a total pain, and honestly, you're bound to make a mistake. There's got to be a smarter way to handle bigger sets of data. And it all starts with getting organized.
Exactly. I mean, who has time for all that? Instead of just brute force adding, the first step is always to organize. We can group the same numbers together to make our lives way, way easier.
And our secret weapon for this job is the frequency table. It looks a little technical, but it's a really simple way to organize the chaos. First, you just list out every unique score. Then, instead of wrestling with that long list, you just make a little tally mark for how many times each score pops up. Once you count the tallies, you get the frequency, which lets you use a really cool multiplication shortcut. And here it is in action. This beautiful table transforms that messy list of scores into something clean and manageable. Just look at the score of 9, for instance. You see the tally marks? It showed up 8 times, so its frequency is 8. Now, check out that last column. Instead of adding 9 to our total 8 different times, we just do 9 times 8 to get 72. It's a huge, efficient shortcut.
So, what's the bottom line? We add up that final column to get 259, we divide by the total number of students, which was 37, and just like that, we have our mean. The average score for the whole class was a 7. No more messy addition, just a clear, quick answer.
Okay, so organizing numbers in a table is a massive step up. But what if we want to actually see the data? You know what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So let's move on to visualizing our info, which can show us patterns that a table might just hide.
Okay, so this is called a subdivided bar graph. Let's break it down. Each big bar represents the total number of laborers in a town. But notice how each bar is split into 2 colors? The white part is for male laborers, and the blue part is for female laborers. So with just one glance, you can see the total number of workers in the town like Yavat Mall, and you can see how that total is broken down between men and women. Pretty cool, right?
But what happens when the totals themselves are different? Because if we're not careful, comparing the raw numbers can be super misleading. This is where we have to be smart to make a truly fair comparison.
Just look at this tree planting data. Both Morshi and Barshi had exactly 45 trees survive. So you'd think they were equally successful, right? I mean, the numbers are the same. But were they really?
It's so tempting to just call it a tie between Morshi and Barshi, but that ignores the most important piece of the puzzle. They didn't start with the same number of trees.
And this is exactly why we need percentage bar graphs. Instead of showing the raw count, a percentage graph puts everything on the same scale, a scale of 100. It creates a level playing field so we can finally compare the town's rate of success, not just their raw totals.
And this graph is the aha moment. So check it out. For RV, 42 out of 60 trees survived. That's a 70% survival rate. For Barshi, they also had 45 trees survive, but they started with 90. That's only a 50% survival rate. And the graph makes this so obvious. Every bar is the same height, 100%, and the blue part shows the survival rate. RV's bar is clearly the most full. The raw numbers were misleading. RV was actually the most successful town.
So that's really the power of all this. We went from a confusing jumble of numbers to a clear and pretty surprising story. We used the mean to find a typical value, a frequency table to organize a big pile of data, and a percentage graph to make a fair comparison. Each tool helped us unlock the real story hidden inside the numbers.
So the next time you're looking at a news report or scrolling through sports stats, don't just let the numbers wash over you. Ask yourself, what's the real story here? Because now you've got the tools to start finding out.